Hey guys, this will be Communications, and starting off the month of October, a series of horror-themed reviews with the classic horror action flick, Predator. The main reason why I'm reviewing this for the first time ever, which I can't believe, really, first time ever I'm reviewing Predator, it's insane. Um, it's because I actually got the opportunity to see the film in the theater last Saturday, and it was an amazing experience, one of the best experiences I've had in the theater, bar none. And I was definitely like, definitely got to review the movie now. Watching the movie in the theater was very, very not only was I grinning from ear to ear throughout the whole running time of the film, but also it was very an interesting experience because I was able to see things and notice things that I really wasn't able to really appreciate or notice when I saw it when I'd watch it at home. I've seen the movie dozens of times, but in the theater it was just a different experience. I was able to focus in a lot more on the mood and the buildup of the film, which I think is very underrated. The suspense-filled moments in the movie, and not only that, the fact that it's not only suspenseful when it needs to be, but it's also a blast to watch. I think Predator has stood the test of time because it is a very simple plot, because it isn't very complex, and also because it not only has a great cast who seem like they have a great time together, but also because the film also does have this sort of popcorn film vibe to it. It's not just a straight up horror movie. It's got some fun one-liners. It's like a combination of the two. It's a combination of Arnold Schwarzenegger's Commando type sort of vibe with horror film with the Predator who's going around killing people, skinning them and ripping their spines out. It doesn't get any more horrific than that. So, I think it's a very, very great film. Um, One of the best action horror movies of all time, without a doubt. Now, the movie was released in 1987, which is a great year for action movies, period. I mean, Predator came out in 87, but so did RoboCop. RoboCop came in 1987. Lethal Weapon came out in 1987. Big year for action movies. And even horror films, I think, didn't Dream Warriors come out in 87? I think. I could be wrong. I think that came out later, earlier. No, it came out in 87. Dream Warriors, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 came out in 1987 too. So it was a really nice year but many films. 87 was a good year. Now, the film is directed by John McTiernan, this is really his breakout directorial, the film that really broke him was a breakout directorial role for him. It's not his directorial debut, like you might want to believe it is. Actually, his directorial debut is a 1986 film called Nomads, which stars Pierce Brosnan, which is a really strange movie, which it's honestly pretty well directed. It's not what you think would be John McTiernan's directorial debut. Predator was actually his follow-up. And of course, after Predator, he would then knock it out of the park again with Die Hard, which is a lot harder than you think it is to really be able to do that. Knock it out of the park not once but twice. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do. Now, the film is produced by Lawrence Gordon, Joel Silver, and John Davis. This is actually the last film that Arnold Schwarzenegger did that was produced by Joel Silver. It's the first screenplay that was written by Jim and John Thomas. Shane Black did an uncredited rewrite on the film. Actually, while he had a lot of downtime while he was shooting the movie, while the movie was shooting. So when he was on downtime, he was writing his screenplay for The Last Boy Scout, which I think is a really sort of interesting nugget of trivia there. And the film stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, this is pretty much close to the peak of his career. Not necessarily the peak of his career, but maybe the peak of his physical prowess. Um, Ripped to the gills in this movie. This is hot off the heels of Commando, which came out in '85. Uh, Predator was pretty much made as it was kind of created as a joke. One of the producers made this joke about, hey, the only thing Rocky hasn't fought yet is an alien, and then it developed into sort of the screenplay that would become Predator, which actually the original title for the film was actually Hunter. which they eventually changed it to Predator, because I'm sorry, Hunter just doesn't sound nearly as badass as Predator. Also, there's a TV series called Hunter, which I think came out around the same time, or at least came out later, so that'd be a little bit confusing to people. But anyway, the TV series Hunter starring Fred Dryer. But yeah, Predator is definitely a hell of a lot better title. Now, the film also has a great supporting cast of big, muscly, big guys, and even Arnold Schwarzenegger even thought he said that the film was a hit because there was all these guys who were just ripped, big guys with big guns, and big guys with big guns, and actual big guns like the old Painless, the minigun in the film. Carl Weathers, who pretty much familiar with him as Apollo Creed from the Rocky films, is in this film as Dylan. Uh, he also, the same year this came out, he starred in Action Jackson. Bill Duke is in this film as he was also in Commando, so he reunites with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Which is funny, is Bill Duke is also in Action Jackson, which came out this year. He plays Dylan. Jesse Ventura, who was in a Schwarzenegger film the same year, The Running Man. Jesse Ventura played Captain Freedom in The Running Man, which came out the same year as Predator. So, they reunite here. Kevin Peter Hall replaced Jean-Claude Van Damme, of all people. Yes, Jean-Claude Van Damme, the muscles from Brussels, was the original Predator. And the original Predator has this weird design where it had like a cyclops eye and like an elongated head, and it looked nowhere near as memorable as Stan Winston's creation, which he had to create like at the really last minute. He worked on the design of the film when it was on the plane to the set of Predator. Uh, I can't sing enough of Stan Winston's praises for the creature design of this film. And Kevin Peter Hall replaced Jean-Claude Van Damme. There's a lot of sort of rumors going around. Van Damme he was cast because of the fact that the Predator was originally envisioned as less of a big, tall, imposing figure, as more of a light on its feet, ninja style alien. But the design looked kind of stupid. I mean, if you've seen the designs of the creature design on the DVD, you know what I'm talking about. And like I said, the Cyclops eye, elongated neck, kind of looked like a dog head. It really looked really dumb. It wasn't intimidating at all. Now, there's rumors abound that either Van Damme was uncomfortable with the fact that he was not going to be able to show his smiling face. He wasn't able to show his face to the audience, so he wanted to be able to do that, which is not possible because you're playing the alien. Sorry, Jean-Claude, you can't take off the helmet and then it's Jean-Claude Van Damme's face. It's really not going to work. So he was upset at that, I've heard, and then also he was upset of the working conditions. I also heard that he hurt himself. He sprained his ankle really badly. So there's a bunch of different sort of things going around. But eventually, yes, Jean-Claude Van Damme played the Predator, but he was replaced by Kevin Peter Hall, which would go on to become Harry and the Hendersons, and he would also play the Predator in Predator 2. And sadly, Kevin Peter Hall has passed away. So he's been gone. He hasn't been with us for a long time. And all I gotta say is may he rest in peace, because everything I've heard about him is he was just a great guy, wonderful person. Now, the Predator, suit was, amazing. One of my favorite Stan Winston creations. And the mandibles were actually added by James Cameron, of all people. Now, Kevin Peter Hall, which is funny about Kevin Peter Hall in this film, is that this isn't the first time that he played a hunter from space. He played an alien hunter from space in Without Warning, or It Came Without Warning, which is another title the film has, which is a 1980 film, which Kevin Peter Hall played an alien hunter who comes to Earth to hunt humans for sport. It really, the Predator had been done before in 1980, but it wasn't in the jungle, and it didn't have Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it didn't have guys with big guns and even bigger guns. It didn't have that. So it did have Jack Palance though, as well as Martin Landau. But I thought that was the very interesting sort of thing that Kevin Peter Hall, earlier in 1980, had played an alien hunter from outer space, and then would go on to play the Predator, which is another alien hunter from outer space. The voice of the Predator was done by Peter Cullen, who you might know as the voice of Optimus Prime in the new Transformers movies. Peter Cullen, he was very reluctant on doing this job because he really messed up his throat playing King Kong and doing the voice of King Kong in the 1976 movie. So he decided, but then he saw the design of the Predator without its mask and said, "I got to do this." And he did a great job with the vocalizations of the Predator. Now, it's not he's not only so he does the voice of the Predator, but you also have Sonny Landham as Billy Soul, who I guess they actually had a bodyguard hired to be around Sonny Landham while they were shooting the film, not because they wanted to protect the star, but because Sonny Landham was infamous for getting into brawls and bar fights all the time and being really kind of tough to work with. So they had a bodyguard around him to make sure he didn't start any shit on the set, which I find pretty funny actually. And Sonny Landham, which tying back into Action Jackson, which came out this year, the same year as Predator, is also in Action Jackson. So it's kind of interesting how those two movies kind of parallel with Predator of all movies. Um, Richard Chaves plays Poncho, who I really enjoyed his character. Shane Black, who did an uncredited rewrite in the film, played Rick Hawkins. He hated the glasses that he wore because he wanted to wear the actual ballistic glasses that the guys in the actual military wore, but they wouldn't. The director John McTiernan wouldn't let him. So he was upset because he didn't want to look like a nerd, but that's what John McTiernan wanted him to look like, was more nerdy, so that's what happened. R.G. Armstrong plays Major General Homer Phillips. There's a little brief role in the beginning. Kevin Peter Hall plays himself in the end of the film as the helicopter pilot who comes in to pick up Dutch at the end of the movie. And you also have Sven Ole Thorsen has a very small role as the Russian military advisor. Yes, Sven got to school some steroids. Same guy who is in The Running Man, which came out the same year. There's just like connections between The Running Man, Action Jackson, and it's interesting. Um, and so anyway, so that's a little bit of the backstory of the film. There's probably more to do with the filming or whatever. Basically, going back to the development of the movie, going back to what I was talking about, they did it as a joke because following the release of Rocky IV, a joke was making rounds in Hollywood about Rocky needs to fight an alien. So Jim and John Thomas wrote a script for Predator, which was originally titled Hunter. It was picked up by 20th Century Fox in 1985 and then turned over to producer Joel Silver, who, based on his experience with Commando, decided to turn the science fiction pulp storyline into a big budget film. Silver enlisted his former boss Lawrence Gordon as co-producer, and John McTiernan was hired as director for as a director for his first studio film. New Zealand director Geoff Murphy was also considered to direct. And according to documentaries included on this DVD, the original monster suit was vastly different from the final product. Like I said, it was really weird looking and doofy. And Silver and Gordon then first approached Arnold Schwarzenegger with the lead role, and Schwarzenegger said the first thing he looks for in a script is a good idea. A majority of the scripts are rip-offs of other movies. People think they could become successful overnight, and so he sat down one weekend. He says that they sat down in one weekend and wrote a script because they read that Stallone did that with Rocky. Predator was one of the first scripts that Schwarzenegger read, and it bothered him in one way. It was just him and the alien. So they ended up redoing the whole thing so that it was a team of commandos, and he ended up liking that idea. He thought it would make a much more effective movie and be much more believable. He also liked the idea of starting out with an action adventure, but then coming in with some horror and science fiction, which I really love the way the film blends those elements together wonderfully. To play the elite band of soldiers, both Silver and Gordon, with co-producer John Davis, searched for other larger-than-life men of action. Carl Weathers, who was as Apollo Creed, was their first choice to play Dylan, while Jesse Ventura was hired for his formidable physique as Blaine. Native American Sonny Landham and Richard Chaves, and African American Bill Duke, who co-starred along with Schwarzenegger in Commando, provided the ethnic balance of the film. As a favor to the writer of Silver's blockbuster Lethal Weapon, the studio hired Shane Black not only to play a supporting role in the film, but also keep an eye on McTiernan due to the director's inexperience. Commitments by Schwarzenegger delayed the start of the filming by several months. The delay gave Silver enough time to secure a minor rewrite from screenwriter David Peoples. Principal photography eventually began in the jungles of Palenque, Mexico, near Villahermosa, Tabasco, during the second week of April 1986. But the film overall was filmed in Vallarta, I don't know how the fuck to say that, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Much of the detailed material dealing with the unit's deployment in the jungle was completed in a few short weeks, and both Silver and Gordon were pleased by the dailies provided by McTiernan. On Friday, April 25th, production halted so that Schwarzenegger could fly to Hyannisport in a Lear jet, chartered by Silver in order to get to his wedding on time. He was married on April 26, 1986 to Maria Shriver, and honeymooned for only 3 days while the second unit completed additional lensing. The production resumed filming on May 12th. It's funny about this whole sort of marriage thing that he was going on with. It became sort of an in-joke on the crew, and Jesse Ventura kept ribbing Schwarzenegger about it, and to the point where he ruined so many takes that McTiernan was really not pleased with Jesse Ventura. I don't blame him. So when, both McTiernan and Schwarzenegger ended up losing 25 pounds during the film. Schwarzenegger's weight loss was a professional choice, while McTiernan lost the weight because he avoided the food in Mexico due to health concerns. Unlike McTiernan, most of the cast and crew suffered from traveler's diarrhea, since the Mexican hotel in which they were living was having problems with their water purification. In an interview, Carl Weathers said the actors would secretly wake up as early as 3 o'clock a.m. to work out before the day's shooting. Weathers also stated that he would act as if his physique was naturally given to him and would work out only after the other actors were nowhere to be seen. And also, going on with the whole sort of McTiernan's problems shooting the film. He actually ended up breaking his wrist while shooting the movie, which is just really a bum deal. So according to Schwarzenegger, though, filming was physically demanding as he had to swim in very cold water and spent 3 weeks covered in mud for the climactic battle with the alien. In addition, the cast and crew endured very cold temperatures in the Mexican jungle that required heat lamps to be on at all times. Cast and crew filmed on rough terrain that, according to the actor, was never flat, always on a hill, and we stood all day all day long on a hill, one leg down, one leg up. It was terrible. Schwarzenegger also faced a challenge of working with Kevin Peter Hall, who could not see in the Predator suit. The actor remembers, so when he's supposed to slap me around and stay far away from my face, all of a sudden, whap, there's his hand with claws on it. Hall stated in an interview that his experience on the film wasn't a movie, it was a survival story for all of us. For example, in the scene where the Predator chases Dutch, the water was foul, stagnant, and full of leeches. Hall could not see out of the mask, and he had to rehearse his scenes with it off. And then memorize where everything was. The outfit was difficult to wear because it was heavy and off balance. And also the whole sort of fight with Arnold and Kevin Peter Hall, the Predator at the end. Kevin actually did hit Arnold one time. He actually did punch him in the face because he couldn't or slap him because he couldn't see. So the special effects of the film, the optical effects were created by R. Greenberg Associates. And the optical effects included the alien's ability to become invisible, the thermal vision point of view, its glowing blood, and the electrical spark effects. The visibility effect was achieved by having someone in a bright red suit, because it was the farthest opposite the green of the jungle and the blue of the sky, the size of the Predator. They also tried to do some takes with a monkey wearing the suit, so it could look like a monkey was swinging along the trees, but the monkey wouldn't keep the suit on, so they threw that out. They threw that idea out. They said we're gonna stop monkeying around here, and so then, see, the suit was the size of the Predator, and then the red was removed with chroma key techniques, leaving the empty area. The take was then repeated without the actors using a 30% wider lens on the camera. When the two takes were combined optically, the jungle from the second take filled in the empty area. Because the second take was filmed with a wider lens, a vague outline of the alien could be seen with the background scenery bending around its shape. For the thermal vision, infrared film could not be used because it did not register in the range of body temperature wavelengths. So the filmmakers used Inframetrics thermal video scanners as they gave good heat images of objects and people. The glowing blood from the Predator was achieved by green liquid from glow sticks used by campers and mixed with personal lubricant, that is KY jelly, for texture. The electrical sparks were rotoscope animation used in white paper pin registered on a portable light tables to black and white prints of the film frames. The drawings were composited by the optical crew for the finished effects. Additional visual effects, mainly for the opening title sequence of the Predator arriving on Earth, were supplied by DreamQuest Images, later Oscar winners for their work on The Abyss and Total Recall. The film was actually nominated for an Academy Award for visual effects. Of course, you know why the makeup special effects were done by Stan Winston. Originally they weren't by Stan Winston because the studio tried to cut costs and have a cheaper makeup effects company make a cheaper alien, but of course you know what happened. The creature design didn't look very effective. Van Damme hurt himself or didn't want to be the alien, and they had to recast him. And so they decided, why not throw that doofy looking alien out the window anyway? We need something that can actually pose a threat to Schwarzenegger. And Kevin Peter Hall, in the creature design by Stan Winston, definitely did pose a threat. The soundtrack was composed by Alan Silvestri, and I love this soundtrack, especially the main title. Very memorable, very well done, and a very underrated aspect of the film. Alan Silvestri's score really adds a lot of mood to the movie, and it adds to the suspense of the film. It makes the scenes where you just have these soldiers walking around in the jungle slowly thrilling and exciting and somewhat nail-biting and creepy because of the score. Without the score, the movie could easily be very slow-paced and boring. But the score by Alan Silvestri helps immensely to make these scenes of them just slowly moving through the jungle actually worth watching, which is a very underrated aspect of the film, which I think not enough people give credit to. Now, it was composed by Alan Silvestri, who was coming off his huge success of Back to the Future, which was released in 1985, 2 years before the film Predator was released. And Predator was his first major action movie, and the score is now full of his now familiar genre characteristics: heavy horn blasts, staccato string rhythms, undulating timpani rolls that highlight the action and suspense. Little Richard's song "Long Tall Sally" is also featured prominently in the helicopter en route to the jungle. Mac also recites a few lines from the song as he's chasing the Predator after it escapes from their booby trap. Silvestri also returned for the sequel Predator 2, making him the only composer to have scored more than one film on either the Alien or Predator series. Now, the film was released on June 12, 1987. Predator was #1 at the U.S. box office in its opening weekend with a gross of $12 million, which is second only to Beverly Hills Cop 2 for the calendar year of 1987. The film ended up grossing a final total tally of $98 million, give or take, of which $59 million was from the U.S. and Canadian box office. $38 million was made overseas. The critical response to the film was originally generally mixed, with some reviewers criticizing the thin plot. Metacritic, which assigns a weighted average score of 100, reviews from mainstream critics gives the film an average score of 36 based on 11 reviews from 1987, while with the review opinion summarized as generally unfavorable, which is bullshit. Elvis Mitchell of the New York Times described it as grisly and dull with few surprises. Fuck off, Elvis. You can leave the building. For good. Dean Lamano wrote in Cinefantastique that the militarized monster movie tires under its own derivative weight. I'm sorry. Fuck off, Dean. Variety wrote that the film was a slightly above average actioneer that tries to compensate for tissue-thin plot with ever more grisly death sequences and impressive special effects. Why does the plot of Predator need to be so complex? Huh? It doesn't need to be. That's why the film stands the test of time. If I could say the word time without flubbing my line. It stands the test of time because not only is it a good idea, not only does it have a great cast, not only is Schwarzenegger a badass in it, not only does it have a great creature design by Stan Winston, not only does it have good special effects, because the plot is very simple. It's a bunch of soldiers who go in, mercenaries, who get hired by the military to go into South America to infiltrate the South American, guerrilla zone, whatever. They take them out, and then they thought that originally they were just hunting some normal gorillas, but then they find out that there's something else in the jungle with them. It's an alien from outer space who hunts humans for sport. And so now they're being hunted one by one. The hunters become the hunted. It doesn't need to be any more complex than that. So for the reviewers who gave this movie shit for not having a complex plot can go fuck themselves. And I mean it seriously. Go blow yourself away. with your own dicks. Seriously, what the fuck? That kind of criticism for this movie is bullshit. All of it. Anyway, so Michael Whittington of the Los Angeles Times, he complained that, here's more of this bullshit criticism, proclaimed that arguably one of the emptiest, feeblest, most derivative scripts ever made as a major studio movie. Wow! Feminist Susan Falati called it one of an endless stream of war and action movies in which women are reduced to mute and incidental characters or banished altogether. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that the actress, who I thought did a good job in the film, actually, um, uh, Epi- Elpidia Carrillo as Anna, was completely useless and was mute. She was mute because she was scared, and you can't blame her. And the one moment where she spoke English was one of the most memorable moments in the film. So, what? It was a great moment. The whole speech that she has, it's an excellent speech. So, whatever, feminist lady. Seriously, these criticisms are like, what? Rotten Tomatoes gave Predator 78%, mostly positive reviews, such as a review by critic Roger Ebert, who has a more complimentary view of the film, saying it supplies what it claims to supply, an effective action movie. That's what it is. It's more of an action film than a straight-up horror film. A lot of action movies in the 1980s were not super complex plots. They didn't need to be. Yeah, thin plot, whatever. Die Hard, by all respects, has kind of a thin plot. But don't hear people bitching about that. So that's what I'm talking about here. It's like a double standard with Predator. I don't know. Die Hard came out a year after Predator, but you see what I'm getting at? He gave the movie 3 out of 4 stars. Roger Ebert, and he praised its pacing, location photography, strong and simple characterization, and special effects. He particularly noted the fast pace of the film keeps the viewers from breaking their suspension and disbelief. Yeah, um, it's very fast paced. It really does help the movie. Um, but he says, the action moves so quickly that we overlook questions such as why would an alien species go to all that effort to send a creature to Earth just so it could swing from trees and skin American soldiers? Or two, why would a creature so technologically advanced need to bother with hand-to-hand combat when it could just zap Arnold with a ray gun? Well, because it's part of its honor. It has a code of honor, and mainly it's because I know about the Predator's code because I read the comics after the film came out. But I guess you can kind of get the questions that people might have had back when it came out because the Predator series didn't really have the canon yet, but now it does through like comics and books. So, especially Predator 2 established the honor of the Predator a lot more. So once you know that, any of those issues that you might have had, I think are non-issues. Um, Film and video game reviewer James Rolfe enjoyed the film, angry video game nerd, noting that it had suspenseful tones of Alien and the action elements of Aliens. The film has been a perennial cable favorite outside of America, India, and other countries, which is interesting. So that's the backstory, box office, the basic gist of the plot. I'm just going to go steamroll through this. During an unknown period of time, an alien spacecraft of unknown origin approaches from outer space and enters the Earth's atmosphere, and it jettisons the small pod which descends into a Central American jungle. A lone alien predator emerges from it. In 1987, Major Alan Dutch Schaefer, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, arrives in the same area with his elite team for an operation to rescue a presidential cabinet minister who has been abducted by guerrilla forces. The team consists of Mac Elliott, played by Bill Duke, Blaine Cooper, who's played by Jesse Ventura, Billy Soul, who's played by Sonny Landham, Jorge Pancho Ramirez, who's played by Richard Chaves, and Rick Hawkins, who's played by Shane Black. Dutch's old military friend George Dillon, Carl Weathers, is now working for the CIA, pushing pencils, and he accompanies them as a liaison. The team is then inserted into the jungle by helicopter and begins its hunt. They soon find the wreckage of a downed helicopter and later the remains of U.S. Army Special Forces soldiers, skinned to flesh, whose presence in the country, also their bodies, puzzles Dutch. And the group is horrified to find that the bodies have been hung and have had their skin removed, which is a really creepy scene, really well shot. And I love some of the shots that John McTiernan does in this film when the camera pans up and you find the skinned bodies. It's really well, it pans up the trees, really beautiful shot. Maybe it was just cinematographer's choice, but either way, Donald McAlpine, who did the cinematography, or John McTiernan, really did a good job with the camera work in this film. Anyway, so they find the bodies have been hung and skinned. So then they track the guerrillas to a heavily defended rebel encampment, which they destroy, except for a woman named Anna, who's played by Elpidia Carrillo, which whom they take prisoner. And that action scene is badass. I mean, watching that in the theater was awesome. People get lit on fire. People get shot up with a minigun. People get blown up. It's just like it just seems like these soldiers, they get shot with big guns and just explode into flames. It's awesome. It's every action movie fan's wet dream, the action sequences in this film. And not only that, I just have great fun lines of dialogue too. Like on the ride, they're on the helicopter, getting ready to drop into the jungle and fun stuff. Listen to Long Tall Sally and the boombox. Jesse Ventura saying fun lines, talking about, you know, you're a bunch of slack jawed faggots. I was like, bunch of slack jawed faggots around here. This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual tyrannosaurus, just like me. He's talking about his chew. And then Poncho holds up his grenade launcher. He's like, "Yeah, strap this on your sore ass, Blaine." And fun stuff like that, and Hawkins and his pussy jokes, which Sonny Landham doesn't get at all. Of course, fun one-liners by Arnold when they go in with the gorillas and they messes them up, throws a knife into one guy and says, "Stick around." It's a lot of fun. Or knock knock, boom. It's really a very entertaining, fun, thrilling action sequence. And so anyway, they end up taking Anna prisoner. Dutch ends up being enraged when Dylan confesses the rescue mission was just a ploy to get his group to attack the rebel camp, and the men that they have found at the downed helicopter disappeared in a failed rescue as 2 CIA agents. And Arnold doesn't take kindly to that because he doesn't do this kind of work. And then as the team make their way to the extraction point, they are observed from afar by an unknown creature using thermal imaging. And I really love the way the film sets it up. The film is some people might call it slow paced, but I love the build up. It doesn't show you it's kind of like Jaws in a way where you don't see a lot of shots of the predator. You just see thermal imaging at first. You might hear him laugh. The first time you see that it's a kind of an alien is when it grabs a dead scorpion that Matt killed, and the imprint of a scorpion is in its hand in the thermal imaging. And then you see like it's obviously an inhuman hand, or it's somebody with really long fingernails. But either way, I know it's not Nuclear Man, so yeah, that was a really nice touch. And then you only see the actual look of the predator without its camouflage, pretty much the last 20 minutes or so of the film, which I think is really a good choice. Now, definitely does keep you guessing, and it helps with the suspense. So Anna briefly escapes, but Hawkins ends up catching her. He is then stabbed and then dragged off. And then the invisible creature then spares the unarmed Anna because of its code of honor. And then moments later, while the team is looking for Hawkins' killer, Blaine is killed. The predator uses his cannon and blows a hole through his chest, and right through his MTV T-shirt, which I didn't notice before, but until I saw this in the theater, is that Blaine is wearing an MTV shirt. And of course, he has the fun lines of dialogue. "I ain't got time to bleed. Son of a bitch is dug in like an Alabama tick." It's a lot. Even fun lines of dialogue too earlier that had you had Billy who was talking about, "We got a good of a chance of getting down there. It's a broke dog dick. It's a broke dick dog." So this is really fun lines of dialogue in this movie. It's another reason why the film is so much fun. It's a great film because it's so much fun to watch. It's another overlooked aspect of the movie. It's not only a great action movie and great horror film, sci-fi film when it needs to be, and it's great really fast paced and everything, but it has a really obvious sense of fun about it. It doesn't take itself seriously, and I think that actually works in its favor. Now, anyway, so Hawkins catches or gets killed. Blaine gets killed. Mac is pissed off because Blaine is his best friend. So Mac sees the creature and opens fire on it, but it disappears into the jungle. And then Anna explains to the group that the creature observing them is a local legend that some kind of alien who's has been hunting here for years and probably has killed the U.S. Special Forces soldiers. And of course, before that, you had the infamously badass scene where they just mow down the rainforest. And it's just like just They don't really hit anything. It's just pure guns and testosterone. Just minigun, max. Ah! It's just like literally blowing their load all over the rainforest. All over the jungle. Just jizzing all over the jungle. But it was a great scene. It really is. And that's when I realized it can bleed. And of course, Dutch is like, if it bleeds, we can kill it. And then you have the whole sort of going back to what Anna says about the legend. I really love this performance by the actress, and I also like this line delivery. This is a good sequence here, where she's talking about the legend of the Predator, or how she likes to call it, its Mexican moniker. When I was little, we found a man. He looked like butchered. The old woman in the village crossed themselves, and they whispered crazy things, strange things. El diablo cazador de hombre. Only in the hottest years this happens, and this year it grows hot. We begin finding our men. We found them sometimes without their skins, and sometimes much, much worse. El cazador trofeo de los hombres means the demon who makes the trophies of men. I thought that was a really, really good touch. Um, well done scene. Now I also really like the scenes where Mac is slowly losing his grip on reality. His best friend Blaine is dead, and he's losing his mind. So he's like shaving himself with a razor with dry, and he does it compulsively. And then there's one time where it ends up breaking, and it actually breaks his skin too, but he doesn't notice because he's just like, it doesn't matter. That's not the last thing that's on his mind. He wants to get revenge for his friend Blaine, and it gets to the point where he's talking to himself. He's aloof. I thought the performance by Bill Duke was fantastic, and I almost wish he played a psycho in a movie because it would have been really would have been effective. Because it was creepy when he was unhinged in this movie. But anyway, so then what happens is they end up deciding to set a trap, but it avoids capture and severely wounds Poncho in the process. And Mac and Dylan has a fun line like, "What are you gonna try next? Cheese?" And then they end up Mac and Dylan then end up getting killed by the Predator and then ensuing chase. Mac and Dylan think they have it cornered, and then the Predator blows Dylan's head apart and gory bliss just cannon. That's where you get the really. I love the fact that it's a 3-dot targeting system. It's really iconic for me personally. And then boom, blows his head apart, and then Dylan gets his arm cut off and stabbed with the blade, gauntlet, the blades that come out of the Predator's gauntlet, which is really awesome. I love that. The two blades that go and you hear Carl Weathers' scream throughout the jungle. Billy then ends up getting slain while he's making a stand. You don't actually see him get killed, which I think could have been added a little bit. Actually see Sonny Landham actually fight the Predator. But, it is what it is. It works. It works. Maybe they didn't want Sonny Landham to actually physically harm and like beat the crap out of Kevin Peter Hall because and maybe also they couldn't do it because Kevin Peter Hall can't see, so we can't have Kevin Peter Hall in the middle of a log and on top of in hanging in midair. You can't really have that going on. But anyway, so Billy gets slain making the stand, and then while the team is making a run for it, the Predator catches up to Dutch, who then engages in a short shootout during which Poncho is killed. I think that's where he goes in and he's trying to go in and he's all like, "Get to the chopper," which a lot of people remember is the most memorable line of dialogue. And it's like, not for me personally. My most memorable line of dialogue for me is near the end of the film. Anyway, so what happens is, Poncho gets killed. Realizing that the creature only attacks those possessing weapons, a wounded Dutch sends Anna unarmed to the extraction point. "Get to the chopper!" Jumping off a waterfall, which is a great, amazing stunt, he narrowly escapes the creature by masking his body's heat signature with mud, and then witnesses the Predator's true form when its active camouflage system breaks down after the creature falls into the water. Dutch then applies more mud to himself, improvises various weaponry and traps, and then baits the Predator into coming out by starting a large fire and yelling out a loud barbaric war cry. which is hard not to kind of stifle a laugh when he does that, but it's still really badass. But it's still like, oh! It's kind of like Raising Arizona, where John Goodman pulls the guy out of the ground. You know, but I almost thought Arnold was trying to do his audition for Tarzan there. But it's also the only time in film or in history where when a man is applying mud to his face, where it would actually be considered badass. He's actually giving himself a facial, but it's not at all gay or any kind of sort of thing. He's not, he's applying a mud pack on his face, but it's actually badass. Just wanted to point that out. That's the only time where that would be considered badass. Anyway, so hearing Dutch's war cry, the Predator then arrives to investigate. Despite suffering minor injuries from his improvisation, the Predator eventually locates and traps Dutch. Now, Dutch is fucked because he fell in the water and he hit the Predator with an explosive arrow and so forth and whatever, but he ran out of explosive arrows and ran out of explosive spears. Now he pissed the Predator off and he fell in the water, so all his camouflage is gone. So the Predator then realizes, what happens is the Predator isn't going to kill him yet because he doesn't have any weapons. So Arnold has to go and has that famous line, it's like, kill me, do it now, kill me, come on, do it, come on, kill me, I'm here, kill me, I'm here, kill me, come on, kill me, I'm here, come on, do it now, kill me, and that's when the Predator realizes, okay, all right. So let's make this a fair fight. So the Predator discards his electronic weaponry, his infrared vision helmet as a sign of respect, and then the alien challenges Dutch to hand-to-hand combat. The ensuing fight is one-sided as the Predator just beats the shit out of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then just proceeds to move into the kill. Of course, before they get into the fight is my favorite line in the film, where when the Predator pulls off his mask, and it's just amazing special effects. It looks so real. The makeup effects are just amazing by Stan Winston. And so then, the Predator pulls off its mask, and then Dutch, of course, is all like, "The one ugly motherfucker." The one ugly motherfucker. I really, one ugly motherfucker. Yeah, and then the Predator roars and then beats the shit out of Schwarzenegger. And it was a great thing to see because at this point in time, Schwarzenegger really never really met his match. I mean, but Tim Peter Hall was just dwarfed Schwarzenegger. And it was just like, it was totally not a match at all. It was the first time where Schwarzenegger looked humbled in a film. And one of the last times, actually. So anyway, so the Predator beats the shit out of him, punches him in the face, makes him spit blood, moves him for the kill, battered and barely able to move. Dutch then, he still manages to drop the counterweight from one of his traps, which is a giant log, and it falls and crushes the Predator. As Dutch asks the mortally wounded alien, "What the hell are you?" the creature repeats his question in garbled English, which I love that scene. "What the hell are you? What the hell are you?" And then it does its thing on its gauntlet, and it activates a self-destruct mechanism on his wrist, laughing maniacally as he does, which I love. He's like, which is, I think is definitely Billy's laugh, Sonny Landham, suddenly, SonnyLandham.com. That's actually Landham's website actually opens up like that. So anyway, Dutch barely escapes from the explosion, and then he ends up being rescued by a detraction helicopter with General Phillips and Anna on board. And then the movie ends, and with Alan Silvestri's badass score, and it's just Predator. Anyway, I really don't know what to say about the movie except fucking badass movie, classic. One of the best films of its genre, let alone of its action or its the blend of horror action. I'm gonna say my favorite Schwarzenegger film. I love Predator to death. It's an excellent movie. Deserves all the praise it gets. The crap that it got for some of those reviewers that I mentioned, no, People are entitled to their opinion, but I'm sorry, that opinion is bullshit. All of it. Now, anyway, but Predator is just one of those movies that never gets old for me. If you want to ask me what is a good time to watch Predator, I would say this. I would quote the film actually from quote from Mac, uh, Bill Duke. Anytime, anytime is a good time to watch Predator, and especially even Halloween because it is a horror related film. There are definitely horror elements in this movie. But anyway, but it's also just a blast to watch. Great one-liners, great dialogue, great cast, great pacing, great directing. Pretty much just great all around everything. Predator is just a fucking classic. And everyone wants to say about Predator is rated at 5 stars. 5 out of 5, nothing less than that. 2 thumbs up. An amazing movie. So one of my all-time favorite films. Like I said, my favorite Schwarzenegger film. But anyway, I really don't know what to say about Predator, except thank you for watching my review. Long, in-depth review of the film. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't boring. And I will see you guys later for a review of Predator 2, which is, in my opinion, an equally good movie, an equally entertaining film, which is on par with the first movie, for me personally, and I think that it's one of the most underrated sequels of all time. So stay tuned for that review, as well as more horror film, TV series reviews that are coming this month, which is going to be loaded with horror films, TV shows, whatever. It's October. It's time to, go all horror crazy. Anyway, thanks for watching my review of Predator, and I will see you guys later. See ya.